Arthur Blank, the owner, has made it clear that succession plan at quarterback is very important to him.
At pick number 8, they went with Michael Penix Jr.
Kirk Cousins was not given really a heads up on this whole thing.
This is an unprecedented video for me because typically I'll bring you my biggest winners and losers of the NFL draft or the first round of the NFL draft and leave it at that. It's very rare for a pick to be so baffling that it gets its own standalone video where I'm picking apart why this pick is so bad in just one video. In my entire 4-year career running this channel, I've never done something like this. But I want to give you guys a disclaimer. This has nothing to do with Michael Penix's talent level. Rather, it has to do with the philosophy of the Atlanta Falcons. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We're going to be bringing you guys a lot of NFL draft news and analysis and the latest roster transactions. Now that we get all that out of the way, work! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Philadelphia Eagle fans, please stop talking trash to me about the AJ Brown contract extension. I said he would get traded in 2 years from now. But regardless, the Eagles are cooking, so congratulations to Philadelphia Eagles fans. That aside, in my biggest winners and losers video, I said that I'd make this a standalone video for you all. And that's because the Atlanta Falcons actually had a pretty solid offseason. Originally, they were supposed to get Bill Belichick as their new head coach. Reportedly, the reason why that didn't happen is apparently Robert Kraft sabotaged Bill Belichick's interview with the Falcons. That resulted in them pivoting to Raheem Morris. Will that end up panning out for the Falcons? It remains to be seen, but that was already a very bold decision for the offseason. And then came time for free agency. You see, for the Falcons, a lot is at stake here because they're in a very weak division, the NFC South, a division that they could easily win if they are able to play their cards right during this offseason. The Falcons would agree to a contract with Darnell Mooney and Ray McLeod. They would sign Contavious Street to a 1-year prove-it deal before making their biggest free agent acquisition of the entire offseason, signing Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million contract. A huge victory. A lot of people were picking apart this deal, but I thought it was a great deal considering the fact that Kirk Cousins was going to be the 10th highest paid QB in the entire NFL. A great contract for an above average QB at the very minimum, who was putting together an MVP caliber season before unfortunately tearing his Achilles. But the Falcons had a lot more. They also had the number 8 overall pick in this year's NFL draft, and they had a plethora of needs. They needed an answer for edge rusher, safety, cornerback, interior defensive line, offensive line, wide receiver, and oh, by the way, Kirk Cousins is 36 years old, so maybe consider taking a quarterback in day 2 or day 3. Definitely not with the 8th overall pick, but the Falcons shocked the entire world when they did everything in reverse. You see, with the 8th overall pick in the NFL draft, with Rome Odunze still on the board, that would make a great combination with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson. The Falcons decided to do this.
The Atlanta Falcons select Michael Penix Jr.
And this led all NFL fans to ask one question. Why would they do this? It makes no sense at all whatsoever. Ian Rappaport tried to provide rationale for the event that this did happen before the NFL draft.
Arthur Blank, the owner, has made it clear that succession plan at quarterback is very important to him. Yes, I know they just signed Kirk Cousins. My understanding, though, they took a hard look at quarterback, specifically Michael Penix. Will they take him at 8? I don't know the answer to that, but I know it is something that they are going to consider.
So this is all about a succession plan for the Falcons. And I understand, 36-year-old Kirk Cousins. You never know, he's coming off of a torn Achilles. So you want a quarterback there that is soaking up the knowledge of Kirk Cousins. Maybe select a guy later on in the NFL draft to learn behind Kirk Cousins. Or hell, maybe if you wanted to trade back up into the first round, if JJ McCarthy was available, which he wouldn't have been, I'd understand that. But in this instance, the Falcons made one of the most baffling decisions that I think we've ever seen in NFL draft history, selecting Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th overall pick. Now, for Michael Penix Jr., this is such a dream scenario. I mean, you're literally getting paid a 4-year, $22 million contract just to sit back and watch Kirk Cousins throw the football for 4 years. By the time Kirk Cousins' contract contract is up, Michael Penix is going to be 28 years old. Now, according to Spotrac, there is some optimism. I mean, Kirk Cousins is fully guaranteed $90 million through the 2025 season, and $10 million of his 2026 compensation locks in next March. So financially speaking, the earliest starting point for Michael Penix Jr. as a Falcons starting QB is 2026. But it's more than that. Apparently, according to Jordan Schultz, there's a text from a GM on the Falcons taking Michael Penix Jr. He's going to be a star. He's a franchise quarterback. That's the best way to put it. And here's the clip of the general manager of the Atlanta Falcons trying to explain this all to Arthur Blank. This one clip is absolute insanity. You could tell Arthur Blank is looking at his general manager and saying, what the hell are we doing here? It made absolutely no sense to take your succession plan with the 8th overall pick. There's been times where quarterbacks have been selected in the first round as a succession plan. Jordan Love was the most recent example of this, and he was selected with the 26th overall pick in the first round of the 2020 NFL draft. Before that, Aaron Rodgers in the 2006 NFL draft was selected with the 24th overall pick. There are instances where it makes sense to do what you're suggesting. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs selected Patrick Mahomes with the 10th overall pick, but by that point, Alex Smith had already been playing for the Chiefs for 4 seasons, and he played for them for a 5th season. In this case, the Atlanta Falcons selected their next quarterback before their current quarterback that they signed to a huge contract could even take a snap for them. And the craziest part of all is how this all went down. Kirk Cousins had no idea they were doing this.
I still can't believe the Falcons drafted Michael Penix Jr.
I just reached out to his agent, Mike McCartney. I'm sure Ian's talked to him as well, but he was not given a heads up. Kirk Cousins was not given really a heads up on this whole thing.
So he's sitting at home and just hearing Michael Penix Jr.'s name called.
This question is for Terry or Raheem, whichever one of you called Kirk when you were on the clock and you tell me about it. What's his reaction?
Well, that's a private. We wouldn't share that, and obviously
reactions are pretty private, right?
Yeah.
He got called on the clock, obviously because it's a sensitive time with the issues of what you got going on. It's never a right time to talk to a quarterback about those things, and reactions are always going to be private when it comes to those things, unless Kirk decides to tell you some of those things, whatever the case may be. But he's a competitor, just like us all, and you can always expect those things to go just like you kind of think.
His agents kind of been telling us that they were shocked and dismayed and so forth. That they were informed on the clock.
Yes.
Multiple insiders are mentioning this. I mean, according to Diana Rossini, the Falcons called Kirk Cousins when they were on the clock to let him know. From what I learned, Cousins understood that a QB would be considered, but he did not believe his successor would be taken in the first round, and I'm told he's a bit stunned. I mean, Rome Odunze was still available. Oluwima Fashanu was still available. There were so many things that the Falcons could have done to win now. And then taking a 23-year-old quarterback and having him sit behind your existing quarterback for the next 4 seasons makes absolutely no sense. Look, for all you know, maybe Michael Penix Jr. is the next coming of Patrick Mahomes or the next generational quarterback. And if I'm Michael Penix Jr., I am so ecstatic to be in this situation. You're literally sitting behind a quarterback for years and picking apart his brain and learning his process, and hopefully that's going to turn you into a great quarterback. I mean, in the case of Patrick Mahomes, it worked. In the case of Carson Palmer and John Kitna, it worked. And hell, even in the case of Jordan Love, during the latter part of the season, it looked like it would work too. But I gotta admit, man, it just doesn't make sense to make such a pick with the 8th overall selection. There were so many ways for you to improve, and there were so many needs that this team had. And I'm not saying that Michael Penix is bad, but it would have made more sense to select JJ McCarthy, who's 21 years old and who could have used some time sitting behind a quarterback of Kirk Cousins' magnitude. You could have taken the top edge rusher in the entire NFL draft in Laiatu Latu from UCLA, or Byron Murphy was another position of need, or Dallas Turner. Literally any other player that was selected in the first round, maybe aside from Brock Bowers, would have made more sense than this pick. But for all you know, Kirk Cousins gets injured again, Michael Penix Jr. is thrusted into the spotlight, but in that case, why would you give Kirk Cousins the amount of money that you gave him to begin with? There is so much wrong with this pick, and I'm still not able to figure it out. But if you're a Falcons fan, I want to know what you guys think in the comments section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.